Hello, everyone. Welcome back to King Po Myers, and we're doing our true crime special with our special guest, Sammy. Sammy, how are you?
I am good. I got a good story for you that's going to make you very angry.
Why do you want to tell me a story that's gonna make me very, very angry?
I trust me. It's a lot of stupid police work. You're just going to be mad at the police. And the fact that this is so recent and the police are this stupid is astounding.
Wait. So it's worse than Black Dahlia. The incompetence.
The police incompetence is for sure worse than Black Dahlia. I wouldn't say they were too bad at Black Dahlia. Yeah.
Saying something.
Mhm.
Oh, Jesus. If you've not already, please go check out our past videos. We just did Black Dahlia last week.
Yeah.
Extra long episode for you because we had a lot of suspects to go through, a lot of evidence to go
Yeah.
through.
Sorry for those 7 pages of notes.
Do not apologize. We got so much out of that. I'm looking stuff up now. Very fascinating case.
Yeah.
I guess we have to begin the case that's going to make me very, very angry.
Yeah. Well, won't make you as angry as puppets in Brazil. So let's
Laura Jose.
Laura Jose. All right.
Bless you.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about a case that took place in the UK. It was the case of the Grindr Killer. Not grinder as in meat grinder, but Grindr as in the app for gay men.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, the grind.
Yeah.
That's weird that.
Yeah, it's a little eerie. That's yeah, but I mean, no grinding happens here.
That was my first thought.
No physical meat grind. Well.
Oh dear.
Not everything I'm saying sounds like a euphemism. Okay.
What kind of grinding we talking about?
We're talking about the euphemistic grinding. So just as a trigger warning, right off the top, this does have mention of rape and drug use in it. So if you are sensitive to that, maybe skip this episode, or maybe go and listen to a past one. Maybe go listen to a happy episode about where we talk about parrots.
A parrot literally stole.
The parrot stole Brazil's heart. So with that being said, let's get started. So
tell me a tale.
Yes. So we are going to start with the first victim. Yes, there is more than one.
Okay.
So in July of 2014, a 22-year-old Gabriel Cavari had recently split up with his longtime boyfriend, Thierry. Gabriel was originally from Slovakia, but moved to London and lived with his boyfriend. But now that they had split up, he had to find a new place to live. So the situation was awkward since he was living with his ex at that point, and he didn't have time to go through typical apartment searches and have people like do typical showings. So he put on his Grindr profile that he was looking for a room to rent as soon as possible, and he found one. A man named John Pape messaged him to offer his spare room, and so the two of them set it up, and they got along well. And Gabriel moved in with John. John and Gabriel became really good friends. They super hit it off while he was living there. But 2 months after he had moved in, out of nowhere, Gabriel said that he would be moving out, that he had found somewhere else, and that he would be gone by the next morning. John thought it was weird and really sudden, but he didn't want to pry. All Gabriel said was that it was a man that he had met on a dating site, much like John was.
Okay.
Gabriel left, and he and John kind of kept in touch like here and there, but not even a week after Gabriel had left, John got a knock on the door, and it was the police. Gabriel had been found dead in the graveyard of St. Margaret's Church in Barking in East London, and all police told John was that Gabriel's death had been, quote unquote, unexplained.
What is this, X-Files?
Yeah, what a word to use. No shit, it's unexplained. You haven't found the killer yet. What? Yeah. Yeah, it is. So Gabriel had been found by a woman walking her dog near this graveyard and said he was kind of kneeling with his face to the wall, kind of leaning, partially clothed. He didn't look like he had dressed himself. And the sweater he was wearing was pulled up like a little bit, along with his sunglasses not being on his face properly. There was nothing normal about the way he was positioned at all. However, police decided not to look into it and did not do an autopsy into how he died because it didn't seem suspicious.
Wait, I have questions.
So do I. I'm sure so did his family.
How old was this young man?
He was 22.
Okay, so we're not talking about a 95-year-old man who died on a park bench. A 22-year-old
man, partially clothed in an unnatural position, didn't look like he clothed himself in the middle of a graveyard. Perfectly healthy. No reason.
And the police are like,
yeah, it's fine. Probably died of hypothermia or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously John was pissed because he's like, what the fuck? You're going to tell me my friend's dead and not look into it and then do nothing about it? John was basically like his only like kind of like next of kin because his whole family was back in Slovakia. Mm-hmm. And the only people that Gabriel knew here was his ex Thierry and John. So John was like, well, I have to let somebody know. And he was like, I can't leave his book open like this and not have closure. So John decided to take it upon his own damn self to look into his own friend's death. John researched, quote unquote, unexplained deaths in Barking. And sure enough, Gabriel wasn't the only one. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about patient 0. 2 months prior to Gabriel's strange death on June 19th, another man, 23-year-old fashion student from Hull, Yorkshire, Anthony Walgate, was found also in unexplained circumstances on Cook Street outside of an apartment complex. I went on Google Maps and I searched the church graveyard and I searched Cook Street. Mm-hmm. These are 2 blocks away. 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. Well, but they're not connected, right?
Of course not.
So he was pronounced dead on the scene. There was blood and bruising on his torso. However, the police still logged his death as unexplained with no autopsy. The police contacted Anthony's family 200 miles north of where he was found, because Yorkshire is nowhere near Barking, by the way, and informed them of his passing. And of course, the family had a lot of questions. Anthony, just like Gabriel, was a healthy, young, fit man with no health conditions or anything. And second, why was Anthony on the other side of the country when he lived and studied up north in Yorkshire and was found dead in London? So that made no sense why he was down there.
Yeah.
The family suggested to police to track and check his phone to find why he was down there, but guess what?
What?
They didn't do it.
You couldn't be bothered?
I couldn't be fucked, dude. Police deemed it, just like an autopsy, too expensive.
These
Even
are two
with
young men.
Men dead.
yeah, with no explained death. Yeah. So even with potential signs of foul play, like the bruising on his body, it would be too expensive to try to find out who did this.
What?
Yeah. This is in 2014, Dylan. This was 6 years ago. And I'd like to think we weren't this stupid, but this is the UK, and I don't like to think that the UK is this stupid. I actually think they're pretty far ahead of us, in multiple senses. But
Was patient zero also gay?
yes,
Mm.
but we won't get to that information until later. But yes, he
Okay.
was. After finding this information, John Pape, Gabriel's roommate, decided to contact Gabriel's ex-boyfriend Thierry, since he was the only other person Gabriel had ever spoken about, to inform him about Gabriel's death, since his whole family was back in Slovakia and didn't know who else to tell. So as John and Thierry were talking, Thierry informed John that he had found a third young gay man, a friend of Gabriel's, who had also been found dead in unexplained circumstances in the exact same cemetery that Gabriel was
Oh,
found.
come on.
Not only in the exact same cemetery, but the exact same spot and position.
Sammy,
Uh-huh.
what did the police say?
Oh, well, we haven't gotten there yet. We'll get there in a minute. won't
Oh
we?
my God.
Oh, man.
Circumstantial.
Unfortunately, yeah, totally circumstantial. So this man was 21-year-old Daniel Whitworth, an aspiring chef from Kent, Southeast England. At this point, John was damn near certain that all three of these deaths were linked. So he got a little more information from Thierry, which actually was given to Thierry by another guy who was telling the info to Thierry, who was telling it to John. This other man was claiming to have known both Gabriel and Daniel when they were alive, and were telling Thierry, who was telling John, that both Gabriel and Daniel would frequent something that is known as chemsex parties, which are huge drug where everyone is on a multitude of drugs, but mostly GHB, which is a common club or date rape drug. I'm just now realizing that Gabriel and Daniel were best friends. And I keep reading this, and it just now hit me. My boyfriend's name is Gabriel, and he has a best friend named Daniel.
Whoa.
It's a little like, okay, Daniel's dead now. My boyfriend and his best friend are dead. Okay.
All right.
So the man explained to Thierry that it was basically older men. This is how he described what these chemsex parties were. That it was basically older men giving these younger men these drugs, or drugging them without their knowledge. It was either like they were like, yeah, I'll take these drugs, or they didn't know they were being drugged. And then the older men would have sex with the younger men, which was not always consensual. It was common for the younger men to pass out from the amount of drugs they were on, because young people don't really know their limits. And I mean, when you're young, you're probably first experimenting with drugs, so you probably don't know how much you can take or how much you can handle. And they would pass out. So when they came to, they were being taken advantage of. So these parties were not always the greatest. It was not all fun and games. So John's theory is that obviously something is happening at these parties, whether it be accidental overdose or something more intentional. And if it was more intentional, he started getting worried that maybe he would be targeted just by being friends with Gabriel. So he's starting to worry about himself. Rightfully so. I mean, the dude found him on Grindr. He's also a gay man, so I would be worried too. Gabriel took all of this information. Oh, Gabriel took all of this information. Why did I write that? John. John took all the information to the police. I didn't mean to write that. I was just sitting next to my boyfriend and writing that. That's probably why I wrote it. Gabriel, God damn it. John took all of this information to the police and told him his theory that all of these cases are connected and told them to look into this. They said that they would speak to the higher ups and get back to him. And guess what the police did?
What the police do?
They didn't. Yeah, they just didn't get back to him. So,
What the fuck?
like, this is a solid case. And for them to not get back to him made no sense to John. So, since the police weren't listening, John went to the media instead, specifically LGBTQ media, such as Pink News and Gallup, both of which have links to the police.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gallup, this media, I'm not sure if it's a online news site or what it is. Gallup went to the police and gave them the same speech John did about this theory and asked if they wanted to speak to John about his theory. Want to know what the police said?
What the police say?
No. I don't want to talk to your buddy. I don't want to know. No. Just no.
Are they like all playing solitaire or something?
Dude, what could possibly be more important than this? It gets worse. I promise it gets worse. They didn't want to speak to John Pape because they didn't think the deaths were linked or that any of the deaths were suspicious.
What?
John had done everything he freaking could to get attention to this case, and there was nothing more he could do. So months went by without anything happening with this case because police did not find it suspicious enough to look into. Finally, the police decided to do an inquest into the deaths of Gabriel and Daniel, and John Pape, being the closest person to Gabriel around the time of his death, and only real family in the area was invited along with Daniel's parents. So people at this inquest are the police, John, and Daniel's parents.
Okay.
So John arrives at the inquest hearing and overheard the detective sounding really disorganized, really unprepared, and didn't seem to be doing his job properly. At one point, the coroner asked the detective to get out Daniel's phone records to see if there was any connection between Daniel and Gabriel, like if they were actually friends. And this detective just took out his binder and started frantically looking through this binder, flipping through all these pages and didn't know where it was, and looked up at the coroner and said, "I can't find it." So they had to just move on without it. So then the coroner announced that they had found a suicide note on Daniel's body, which this is the first that John and Daniel's parents had ever heard of it. Like, no one ever heard of this suicide note, right? It read, "I am sorry to everyone, mainly my family, but I can't go on anymore. I took the life of my friend Gabriel Klein." That's not Gabriel's last name, by the way. Gabriel's last name is Kavari. I just thought that was interesting. It's never explained or pointed out ever. I just wanted to point it out because I thought it was weird. We was just having some fun at a mate's place, and I got carried away and gave him another shot of G. I didn't notice while we was having sex, but he'd stopped breathing. I tried everything to get him to breathe again, but it was too late. It was an accident, and I blame myself for what happened, and I didn't tell my family I went out. I know I would go to prison if I go to the police, and I can't do that to my family, and at least this way I could be with Gabriel again. I hope you will forgive me. By the way, Please do not blame the guy I was with last night. We only had sex and then I left. He knows nothing about what I've done. I've taken what G I had left and some sleeping pills. So if it does kill me, it's what I deserve. Feeling dizzy now as I took 10 minutes ago. So hoping you understand my writing. I dropped my phone on the way here, so it should be in the grass somewhere. Sorry to everyone. Love always. Daniel P.W. So, a couple things about that. There was no I love yous. There was no addressing specific family. It wasn't personable. It was all very cold, very matter of fact. And also, don't blame the guy I was with last night. P.S. Don't blame that guy. It's just like, really?
Don't blame the mysterious man over there.
Yeah. So clearly this is a fake suicide note. There was no way that Daniel would have written this. The family also said that the handwriting didn't look like Daniel's. Daniel lived quite far away from his family, so he would always write to them, but through email and text messages. They weren't used to seeing his handwriting, but they did have an old birthday card to compare it to, and it's not even close. Daniel's family said that the police were in no way looking hard enough. They were like, what about CCTV? What about the phone he dropped? What about the LGBT scene in the area? Police told the family they would send the handwriting off for professional analysis and let them know.
Sammy?
Yeah?
Did they send that piece of evidence off for handwriting analysis?
Gee, what do you think? No, they fucking didn't. But they actually went one step further than that and wrote in Daniel's case file that the parents had confirmed that the writing in the suicide note was his, when they in no way did that. Like, now you're just making up lies at this point. It's not even that you're failing to do your job. You're doing your job and you're not even doing your job and you're lying about it. Yeah, I know. Your face says it all. Yeah. So another thing that came up in this inquest, which the parents were not informed of, is that Daniel's body was found on a blue sheet in the cemetery, which police confirmed was not DNA tested or anything when the family asked about testing. They didn't do a fiber sample. They didn't do anything. They did nothing to that sheet. Like,
are they talking with the police? Like, are they going to like the wrong place?
yeah, no. No. Like this is the police that came to the door saying, by the way, your son is dead. Like, yeah, this is the police. So, police said that they hadn't DNA tested the sheet because they never felt the need, which is just, I don't have words for that.
You are the police. Young gay men are being murdered. You cannot, man, like I got this paperwork right now, and
dude, I got yoga at 5 today with my wife. I just can't. I don't have time for this.
I'm just not. I'm not balanced right now, and this is just not a good time. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
I know. And like, if you're gonna go commit suicide, why would you bring a blue bed sheet to sit on? Like, I could understand a blanket, but a sheet, like a thin sheet,
no.
Like, that's obviously a drop, right?
Yeah.
So not only that, but Daniel was also found with bruises all under his arms and on his chest, as if someone were to like drag you and move you. And so was the first death, the non-cemetery death in front of the apartment block, Anthony Walgate. He also had the bruising on his chest. Mm-hmm. After the inquest, both Daniel and Gabriel's deaths were ruled as an open verdict, which I had never heard of before, which means foul play couldn't be ruled out. but they weren't going to investigate it further. And that was that.
That is really convenient.
So now we move on. Months later, in September 2015, over a year after the first two deaths of Anthony and Gabriel, John Pape received an email from the police that a fourth body had been found with the same circumstances and in the same cemetery. This victim was 25-year-old Jack Taylor, who had went for a night out on a Saturday night and never returned home. And by the following Monday morning, police were at his family's doorstep informing them of his death. And despite the circumstances being found in the same way, in the same spot, in the same graveyard, even without an autopsy, because that seems to be too expensive for some reason, police were pretty sure how he died this time. It wasn't unexplained.
Oh.
The police found a syringe in his pocket and a needle mark in his arm. So they just assumed he had just overdosed on drugs, be it accidental or on purpose. As soon as Jack's family heard this, they were like, no fucking way. No, no, just no.
No.
Because it's not that just that Jack wouldn't take drugs. It's Jack hated drugs. Like he would not let like friends like shoot up in front of him. He would not, his friends or anyone in the same room with him take them. He had never touched them in his life. And the family was like, we do not accept this cause of death. Absolutely not. And to most people, it's like, oh, well, like, it's not like your son's going to tell their family like, hey, by the way, mom, I'm taking drugs. Like no one wants to believe their family member is doing drugs. But at the same time, he was like anti-drugs. He didn't just like not do drugs. He was so vehemently against drugs. So they were like, no fucking way. Absolutely not. So police. The police told the family that they would investigate it a little bit more, and the family waited for almost 2 weeks until they finally had to contact the police for any updates. And of course, there weren't any. Police straight up told Jack's sisters they weren't investigating it. Just straight up, we're not investigating it. And much like John Pape, due to the unwillingness of the police to even look into this case, the family took it upon themselves to start investigating the case themselves at home. The family physically wrote everything they knew out on paper. They searched for other deaths in the area. They found Anthony, Gabriel, and Daniel, and the sisters knew that there had to be a connection. Like they did everything. They had like everything sprawled down on the kitchen counter, like, okay, let's connect these dots, you know? They asked police multiple times if any of the boys were connected, and police would time and time again say no, and they're also not suspicious.
I really can't.
I know. And finally, after a lot of begging from Jack's sisters and his family, the police finally decided to take a look into this a little bit more. The police searched Jack's phone and found that night he had arranged to meet up with a man embarking on Grindr. Although, while searching through the messages, suspiciously, the man who these messages were sent from on Grindr had deleted his profile. So, whoopsie doodle, can't look into it. Sorry. But to police, it wasn't a red flag to police that this profile was gone. They were just like, whoops, it's gone. Not going to do data recovery to find it. Super funny.
I love how these cops have now turned into basic bitches. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Isn't that so crazy? Anyways.
He's dead. What do you want?
Yeah, I don't know what you want from me. Shit. Police also went and looked at the CCTV footage in the area that they planned to meet up. And sure enough, they saw Jack on that CCTV footage with a tall blonde man. But police said they had no idea who that man was and had no way of finding out who he was. The footage showed Jack and this man. If you've seen any true crime show, it's always just like, okay, enhance, enhance, enhance.
What do you expect me to like
Enhance.
investigate?
They were like, we don't know. I don't know. It's just a blonde dude. The footage showed Jack and this man walking down the street until they walk out of frame. And then a few minutes after being out of frame, police supposedly see Jack on another CCTV camera walking alone in the direction of the cemetery. This footage led police to believe that the two men had parted ways in that blind spot between the cameras and that this tall man couldn't have been responsible for Jack's death. However, this blind spot had like another road turning off of it, kind of like a three-way stop almost. Like it's hard to explain, but there's like a split in the street. So like they're walking down and then you can go this way or you could go this way. So it's kind of like a three-way stop. It basically, if there was a stop sign on this street that was split, it would be a three-way stop. There's one thoroughfare and then there's a split going one way. The two men had parted ways there and that he couldn't be responsible. However, the blind spot had a road turning down it, like I just described, and the sisters pointed that out, saying that the two of them could have turned down this other road, and the man they see in the second CCTV camera going towards the graveyard is just another man and not Jack at all. But the police said, nope, definitely not. That's definitely Jack. That's definitely your brother. It's definitely him. So a week later, a new sergeant was introduced to the case because clearly the current people on it weren't doing a very good job. And possibly the victims' families had complained so much that they put a fresh pair of eyes on the case to see if they were connected. So Jack's sisters were like, oh, fuck, we got to get to him before the other guys do. So Jack's sisters saw it as an opportunity and went straight to him to tell him the connection theory and if he could look into this. He said, okay, I'll definitely look into the theory of them turning off on that road in that blind spot. And sure enough, they found footage on a different CCTV that showed Jack making that left turn with the man at that blind spot. So the man on the second camera headed towards the cemetery was not Jack. But police had told his family that since they wanted the case over and done with. So Jack's sisters requested that they release the image of the man from the CCTV footage who was with Jack to the public to see if anyone recognizes him. I'm going to stay silent and I'm going to let you guess.
No. No. No.
Yeah, exactly. No. They said no. They said
I was trying to imitate them. That's what they were. Yeah. No.
They said no. Since Jack's death was legally ruled as an open verdict, they weren't looking for a suspect, and footage is only really released to the public when they're looking for a suspect. Jack's sisters were like, fuck no. They were like, no, I am not leaving your office until you fucking release this footage right now. They were not taking no for an answer. They wanted that man identified and this picture on the fucking news. So with a lot of persuasion, the image was finally released to the public, and literally within 48 hours of this photo being released, they had somebody arrested and in police custody. Would have been as simple as that. Wouldn't have taken that long if you had just done that, right?
No, Sammy, you don't get it, because what they would have to do is they would have to, take that video clip, take like a screenshot of it. They'd have to drag the screenshot to an email. They'd have to type in the news. Too much work. We're looking for this guy. Oh my God. When you finish this, because once again, I don't know what's happening. I want the last 30 minutes to be, and then internal affairs got involved and they were like the SWAT team, and they kicked down the doors. They smashed the fucking cop's Xbox. We're like, okay, we need to talk.
I wish that was it, but we'll get into that later. So they had somebody arrested and in police custody on October 15th, 2015. 41-year-old Stephen Port was taken into police custody on suspicion of all 4 murders. Stephen was born in Southend-on-Sea, Essex, on February 22nd, 1975. And at 1 year old, his family moved to Dagenham in East London. So he wasn't in freaking Southend-on-Sea for a while. He wasn't there very long. He was bullied in school. He had really shitty social skills and he didn't have any friends. As an adult, he went on to get his own flat in Barking and get a job as a chef at a bus station, which apparently that's a thing in the UK. I really had to kind of look at it. Their bus stations are way nicer than ours.
I'm thinking of US bus station. Like, I don't want
yeah, like public transportation is dirty. No, it was like a takeaway restaurant.
Oh,
that's
really cool.
Not kind of like, I don't want to say Panda Express, but like it's like more like Homebody than like Panda Express, my best guess. I'm a good rhymer. His neighbor described him as having a peculiar childlike personality, showing odd behavior as a grown man, such as playing with children's toys. So you'd be at a party with all the other adults drinking alcohol and chatting away, and you would see him on the floor playing with a toy train. So it's a little bit of an oddball, to say the least. This neighbor, who says a lot later, was very aware that Stephen took drugs almost daily. And that included, but definitely not limited to, cocaine, crystal meth, MCAT, GHB, and poppers.
Jesus.
This man was on a lot of drugs. This neighbor was like, this dude is like hoarding drugs in his flat. And this is like way more than just for personal use. And he didn't sell. He would just buy them and keep them. So this neighbor witnessed Stephen having young men around at his flat constantly. Like, I'm talking like revolving door of young boys. And he met these men through dating sites and whatnot, and sometimes through escort services. He never went out and found someone organically, like at a bar or anything, because he didn't have those social skills. So I guess it was just easier to hide behind a screen. This neighbor witnessed the life and death of all of Stephen's relationships. One of his boyfriends described being thrown into a TV by Stephen and him being aggressive. Another one split with him because Stephen hit him during an argument. And after that, the reasons for splitting up with Stephen became more and more violent. Meanwhile, Stephen was maintaining his innocence back at the police station. It was found that he had actually served prison time earlier that year in connection with the first victim, Anthony Walgate's death. Earlier, I mentioned that Anthony's body was discovered by a man coming home from his night shift and found him on the sidewalk outside his apartment block. That man was Stephen Port. Really? When police arrived, he told them, I don't know this guy. He literally just came back from his night shift, found him there dead on the ground. So police let him go and never gave it another thought. They bought his story without even looking into it.
Probably had blood all over him and
holding the knife. Just found this guy.
Yeah. But
all right, mate.
Yeah. When months later, when police were looking into Gabriel and Daniel's deaths, they decided to also check Anthony Walgate's phone history. They found that Anthony used to work part-time as an escort through a website called sleepyboys.com. And while looking through his messages on that site, they found that Anthony was actually on the job at the time of his death. An overnight stay arranged by Stephen Port. So he bought his escort services. So, you know, the police at the time didn't find it very suspicious.
I can't.
But because Anthony died of a GHB overdose, sex drug, on an escort hookup job at the time, police just thought that this was an accidental death caused by the drugs during consensual sex, not murder, and that Stephen just didn't want to admit his connection to Anthony because he was embarrassed at buying sex work services, or that he was still closeted or something, and they didn't want to out him. But even though they didn't suspect him of murder, it's still a crime to withhold and lie to the police. And so Stephen Port was convicted of perverting the cause of justice and was sentenced to 8 months in prison. However, he only served 3 months of that. And during those 3 months, there were no more deaths. He was released in late June, and by September, the 4th body was found. Because
all right, I believe
in the police right now. I believe.
Oh, you shouldn't. Because this wasn't a homicide investigation. They didn't do usual evidence collecting and searching. So they didn't even check Stephen's flat at the time. But if they had, they would have found this huge stash of drugs, including the drug that Anthony overdosed on.
Circumstantial, Sammy.
All circumstantial.
That's. Where are you trying to get with this?
So police then looked into Stephen's phone to see what the different connections were to these boys, and they found a fake Facebook profile that he had made and named himself John Locke. So remember when Gabriel's ex-boyfriend Thierry was getting this information about these chemsex parties from this rando that was a friend of Gabriel's and was relaying this to John?
Yeah.
That was John Locke, Stephen Port's alias. He was the one providing this information. He was covering his tracks by pretending to be friends with Gabriel and Daniel and giving Thierry all this BS about chemsex parties that never happened. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. So basically, this guy, Stephen, creates a fake Facebook profile as John Locke, messages Thierry, Gabriel's ex-boyfriend, and is like, hey, I know what I'm friends with Gabriel. I have some information you may want, and is relaying this information to Thierry, and Thierry's relaying it to John Pape. But it was the killer the whole time. So in Stephen's Grindr messages, he found that there was a chat log offering Gabriel Cavari a place to stay at his flat when he had broken up with Thierry and was looking. So when Gabriel moved out of John Pape's flat, it was to stay with Stephen Port. Which sucks. Looking further into Stephen's deleted Grindr profile, the police found the messages between Stephen and Jack. Police also took Stephen Port's laptop and had a look at his search history, which is my worst nightmare. And they found in his search history, date rape, drug, unconscious boy rape videos, boys being drug raped, and unconscious porn videos. And right after that, he goes on to sleepyboys.com and finds Anthony Walgate's escort services and books him.
Oh, that's so ungodly creepy.
So then police finally forensically tested a bunch of things that should have been tested a long time ago, and found that the needle in Jack's pocket was completely unused.
I'm
completely
shocked.
Unused. They also tested Daniel's suicide note and found Stephen's fingerprints all over it. and found Stephen's DNA all over the blue bed sheet found underneath Daniel's body. Several people after this incident, when public and Stephen was outed as this evil, horrible man, several survivors came out and said that similar things had happened to them, but they had survived. So not only did he murder 4 people, but he was also a serial rapist.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In November 2016, 2 years after Gabriel was killed, Stephen Port went on trial for the rape and murder of all 4 men. These charges also included the rape of 3 other men who came forward after he was arrested, 10 counts of administering substance with intent, and 4 further counts of sexual assault. He was found guilty of every last one. And he was sentenced to a whole life tariff, which is basically life sentence. He tried to appeal this in 2018, that everything was accidental, but he was rejected. Following his conviction in 2019, Gerald Matovu, who was known to have supplied Stephen with the GHB used in these killings, was arrested and sentenced to 31 years in prison for the murder of actor and businessman Eric Michaels. Matovu had targeted Michaels on Grindr, much like Stephen did, and given him a fatal dose of GHB, much like Stephen did. So I wonder where this idea came from. In July 2020, this past year, it was announced that a fresh inquiry was set to take place in January 2021 to examine all 4 deaths and probe into any police failings. The victims' families have also filed civil suits claims against the Metropolitan Police Department for their lack of investigation into these murders.
Oh, I hope they bring them just down, just cripple them.
I hope so too. I mean, I think it said somewhere that there was like 13 officers that were like maybe put on leave when they first investigated this because they were such garbagey. But the case is fucked up, man. Like,
this is very,
yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Have the police since then given any reason why they did not look into... I'm sorry. Once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why they didn't test anything? How a young man is dead, and they're like,
nah, it's good. Nah, I guess they, and I don't know if it was homophobia. I don't know
that
if
was
this
my
is.
Guess.
I really don't, and I'm not going to be the social justice warrior here and be like, oh no, it was absolutely because they were gay and they didn't give a shit about gay men. But like, I have to wonder if that played a part in it. But at the same time, it's fucking 2014 when this happened. Like, like I don't see that really being a thing. But at the same time, like, yeah, there are still homophobes out there, but it makes me wonder, like, I don't know. Not sure. But I'm trying to see if there was if they offered any explanation. Blah, blah, blah. Whitworth's stepmother. No investigation. Discounted the bruising under his arms. Yep. Police agreed to take the 2 sisters. Yeah. The Independent Police Complaints Commission opened an investigation into whether 17 police officers should face disciplinary action. As of November 2017, this was expected to be completed in spring 2018, but not made public until after a verdict in a new joint inquest on all 4 deaths. The inquests on Kavari and Whitworth were later quashed. The families... I forgot to mention this. The Metropolitan Police also reported in 2016 that they were re-examining 58 unexplained deaths involving date rape drugs. Although a spokeswoman said that there was nothing to suggest that Port was linked to any of them. But we know how shitty the police work is here.
Right?
I don't think that there was any explanation offered by the police. It's just sad because there's so much shit that happened here that could have been prevented if they had just originally tested that bed sheet or tried or listened to John. 1 or 2 people would be alive right now, and many other people would have not gotten hurt.
I mean, that's blood on their hands completely. I mean,
Yeah,
just
100%.
Just test it.
I have heard of people, because we are a dystopia universe in the US. I have heard of people having to raise their own money for a DNA test because they are so expensive. But like I said, we live in a dystopia universe here. I don't know if that's a thing in the UK that they are that expensive. And if they are that expensive, do they force victims' families to pay for these DNA tests? You know what I mean?
But it seems like
they were the ones that are like, it's not in the budget. It's not in the budget.
I mean, good on the sisters.
Oh my God. The sisters literally saved the day in this case.
We're like, no. This is how you do a police investigation. Well, yeah. God bless them.
John Pape and these 2 sisters, are literally the only reason this man got convicted. Not the police department.
No. They just
that one sergeant, actually, that new sergeant that came in at the very, very end. 4 people solved this case. 4. 2 sisters, a police sergeant, and John Pape. That's it. Yeah, I know. It kind of does leave you speechless, just solely because of how baffling and how awful the police work was. Like, it is actually incredible how much they failed here.
On every level.
Every level.
I mean, once again, I do not know these cases. I really thought it was one of the cops. It was a detective. It was a sergeant.
Yeah.
Keeping everyone quiet.
It almost feels like an inside job because of how poor the police work was.
I really thought you were going to tell me it was one of the cops.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it would have been at some point. Especially like when they found, I believe, Jack with the needle. It made me think like, oh, this was absolutely placed. First of all, I put this there post-mortem. There's no way. And you know what? I guarantee the majority of the victims were injected without their knowing, or given things without their knowing. Yeah. This one was a little bit more heavy. Sorry to leave it on a shitty note, but
damn,
these police officers were just fucking terrible. But yeah, that's the Grindr Killer. Not a grinder, but maybe like grinded. Not to make a terrible sex joke.
And on that, this is
Gave you up true crime.
Oh man. I go work on my other notes. Shit.
Well, at the end of the day, he's in jail.
Yeah, he's in jail for his entire life, and he will most likely not get out. He will not get an appeal.
He's probably gonna die in there.
Yeah, good. He should. Bad man. Sure, he probably suffered from mega drug withdrawals as soon as he was arrested.
Oh my god.
I'm sure that was fun to deal with in the police station. Jesus.
Fucking
Like you're detoxing from 5 different drugs at once. Could you imagine? Oh my god.
all the cops are just like, looking in the cell with their tea like,
Yes.
what is this?
Yeah, should we let him go? He looks like he's in pain. Like, should we let him go? Maybe we'll take him to a hospital or something.
Hey, you in the cell. All right, 5 minutes around the block. We're
watching you.
And
You go. We'll be here when you get back.
Our eyes are on the clock. I mean, we're playing COD right now, so go back into your cell.
Go back in your cell. You can watch later. My god.
I'm so angry.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you angry. I mean, I did, but I didn't.
I thought you were, Tammy. I thought you were playing because like last week's episode, you're like, "Oh, the police work was awful." Like I thought,
Oh no, I was so dead serious. I there's no way I could have explained this to you in any way, shape, or form. Just how terrible this is. None. Oh my god.
Loyal listeners, what do you think of the police work? Do you think that the police tried their hardest? Do you think they were just having a bad couple of years,
Do you think that there was some homophobia involved here? Like I'm genuinely curious. Like, do you think that played a part?
What if these were young women?
Yeah. Well, what if they were young women? What if they were sex workers? Anthony was.
That never happened in England, though. I mean, sex workers dying and no one giving a shit.
No, never. Oh my god.
Sammy, you're really just pulling at strings like this whole time. Let us know what you think. We always love to hear your feedback. Before we go, Sammy, can you give us a hint?
Okay. So next week, this is one that some people might be familiar with. It was just recently covered by someone pretty popular, but all of these cases, I think I've said on here before, but I've definitely told you, Dylan, these are all cases that have stuck with me for some reason. I just made a list of cases that have stuck with me, not necessarily cases that are like obscure or not necessarily cases that have never been heard of. These are just all cases that have stuck with me in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And this one stuck with me just because of how ridiculous it is, and how long it took to catch this guy. So there's some bombs. How's that? I'll give that for you. Some bombs. Yeah.
We are looking forward to that. Once again, let us know what you thought about this episode. Sammy, where can the good people find you?
You guys can find me at Studio Sticks on Instagram. But I'm still working on getting that shop up and running, so forgive me. And if you want to find my artwork, you can find me at Fiendish Goth on Instagram. I probably have more artwork there, and I'll probably respond to you better there if you have any questions or anything like that. And yeah, so Studio Sticks and Fiendish Goth on Instagram. And check out some of that sick nasty KPM merch that I drew.
It's good shit.
It's good shit. I need a new mouse pad. I think I said that last episode, but I genuinely, I'm looking at my mouse pad right here next to me, and I have this giant tea stain on my mouse pad. So I definitely need a new one.
Follow us also at
King Po Myers on Instagram. You can also hit me up on my personal one, KPM Dylan. You can talk some true crime there.
Yeah, and if you guys have any case suggestions for future episodes, please shoot them in the DMs, because I am more than happy to look into cases that I've never heard of before. So, and I've heard of a lot of them, so it might be hard to kind of stump me, but
try and stump Sammy.
It's a little tough to stump me, because there's quite a
few.
Get
a free mouse pad.
Stump me, get a mouse pad. But yeah, no, I've heard quite a few cases. So if you have one that I haven't heard of before, I would be genuinely surprised. So, yeah, drop some suggestions in the DMs as well. So I want to hear what you guys want to hear.
Thank you for listening. Thank you, Sammy, for being with us and telling us that infuriating story. And we will see you next week. Have a good one, guys.
See you next week. Bye.